Then I would suggest we start. I will actually give the floor to our online participants. The first presentation is online and it is on agroecology of school food manure, the seeds of a sustainable transition. Check, are you ready? We could start with your presentation. Modu?
Me? Yeah, I'm ready, yes.
Exactly,
I can
perfect.
start.
You can start,
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. It is a good pleasure for me to share you my activity around the agroecology and food money. Food money is
1 second, we have to solve some technical. Maybe we have to do a sound check again because we hear you not very loud. Can you try to speak a bit louder? We have already put it on the maximum here.
Okay, thank you. You hear me?
Yes, much better.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hello everybody. It's a very pleasure for me to share with you my activity around agroecology and school food. In this meeting at Topanak, it's a very pleasant and opportunity for me to participate in this event. First session for the organization.
If possible, a bit louder again.
You hear me?
Yes, as loud as possible.
Yes.
Just shout.
Yeah. Do you hear me?
Yes, but try to be as loud as possible, please.
Okay, thank you. I work in agroecology and food money. Food money is a lever to push the agroecology in our area around the awareness around the development of a local market. I will show you some example where we work in the Senegalese area. I will start by the presentation of the context of school food feeding in Senegal. You know, in Senegal we have 22.3 million of children mentally living in the rural area, or in the rural area we have some situation. The village center have all the structure of social effective school and hospitality. All the structures are located in the village center, and the amount haven't infrastructure. They go to the village center for the social need around school and other. Sometimes the distance between village amount and village center is more than 2 kilometers, and the children, girl and boys, work every day to go to school under the sun, under the climate condition is very hard for us, and it is not easy. It had a big problem for them condition of school, and we develop a strategy around the food money to stay the student in the school, and they did all the day in the school. So now we have a program, national programs need to take the rate of the food school to 13 until 17%, and we will touch 1.6 million children. That is a good market for the local production, and the government aim suggests the canteens to supply around the local products. In the other, we have a national dynamic of transition agroecology. they push the development of the local agroecology in Senegal around the development of the local market, local production, circular economic, reduction of the footprint carbon, etc. And they do some advocacy to push the governments to help and to develop the agroecology. And when the government need to develop the canteen scholar, and the canteen will supply by the local production, they have the same objective. The canteen scholar and the national dynamic for agroecology have the same objective. The canteen scholar need to supply by the local production. The dynamic of agroecology need to push the local consumption. So in the same objective, we need the research activity sector need to develop some evidence to give the civil society for awareness and plaidoyer to boost the development of the link between canteen scholar and the local production for the development of value chain, a local value chain, inclusive and climate change. In this objective to make the link between the school canteen and the local production, we aim some objective in our study to develop agroecological market, local market network between farmer, breeder, processing, and school canteen. And to answer that the market is agroecology, we evaluate the level of transition, the agroecological transition of each actor, farmers, breeders, and processors, to evaluate the level of transition, like the 13 principle aspect of agroecology, and to make the link between the canteen scholar. After the evaluation of the level of transition, the evaluation of transition of agroecology, we evaluate the cost benefit and the SWOT to make that the link is sustainable, because we can make a link between production and school canteen, and when the business model are not profitable, are not sustainable, the link will be not sustainable. So to make a sustainable link and market, agroecological market between these actors, we need to be answered that all the actors are agroecologic, all the actors are profitable, and we do some recommendation to manage the risk and the weakness. And after making link between market, between canteen scholar and producer and processor, we develop a local guarantee system, participative, for the agroecological, a local guarantee for the agroecological product. And we evaluate the impact ex ante of the development of agroecology around food scholar and the condition of the screening. And this information can help the civil society to make the advocacy near the governments. We work in a local dynamic in Fatick, included in the national dynamic. It is created since 2021. In this local dynamic, we work, we do a focus in 3 school canteen in the commune of Niakhar, locality in the local dynamic in Fatick, in the center of Senegal. The school canteen is founded by the civil society, for example, Umundi, and the local elected, the community local, the local elected they found the school canteen. That is a test to make the test before the scanning of the school canteen. It's be 18 students are enrolled in this school canteen, and the activity is raising awareness of local consumption, promotion of local dish, school gardening, and subsidy for local disease. So these are the activity of the canteen score around the locality to boost the consumption of the local production and to take the children awareness the children for the local consumption, for the principle of health of environment, health of soils, and health and one health to take the children more responsible for the environment.
Apologize, I just have to interrupt regarding the timing. You have 2 minutes left, so maybe you need to speed up a bit.
Okay, thank you. I go on the last key and the last prize. They consume the local product and millet and milk, and methodology is participative. I evaluate the level of the transition
and loud as possible.
Each business models, position and they are in the local position. That is the SWOT analysis and all the and in the rate of transition of agroecology. And that is the last slide. Just to talk about you, the Canteen Scholar has a good level to boost the agroecological development of the region, and it is 8-10% of the revenue of income of the processor, and they boost livestock and agricultural millet for the development of the local agroecological areas, and all the children are awareness in the condition of agroecology and the need to be more responsible for the environment. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. Apologize for have to speed up, but we have so many others also that will follow. The floor is open for discussions. So if there are any questions.
Sorry, maybe it is the connection.
Can you hear us? We would now open the floor for discussion. And there is one question. Can you hear us?
I don't hear.
You can't hear us. Okay.
Then maybe we can type in the question.
We can type in the question. So we can also, maybe you can try also to unshare your presentation. Yeah, okay. Let's take a first question.
Okay, so my question is that with approach to develop the agroecological market, what do you think can be scaled?
Could you hear us? No.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, do you want to reply?
Yeah, okay. Thank you for the question. For the development of the agroecological market, we do the focus of the economical circular and the local value chains, and we make the link between canteens, food canteen and the local production and processor. So that is our strategy, and we evaluate the level of transition of agroecology for each actor, the profitability of each actor, to make sure that the link where we will meet between the actors is sustainable. Thank you.
Yes, we have a second question.
Hi, this is Victor from CIMMYT. I guess you're a colleague at another CG center. How did you define agroecology? The reason I'm asking is we're just doing an evidence base on regenerative agriculture, whether it's really as one wants it to be, in global South environments, there's a lot of assumptions being made. So one key thing is definition, agroecology, and the second, in Senegal, have the agroecological definitions that you're working with, have they been substantiated? In terms of, you know, I mean, did you, the benefits that you wanted for particular definitions of elements of agroecology, have you confirmed them in either in the research field or in on-farm trials independently of this project?
Okay. I can repeat. I can answer.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for this question. Firstly, my comprehension and definition of agroecology, I think about in Senegal, in our context, we are agroecologic. Our contexts are different of the, for example, of the European context. We are around 8 kilogram per hectare of chemical fertilizers, and in your for example the European context, you are in 2000s, and the level of the global context turn around more 100. So when you see the difference between the context of Senegal, Sahel, global context, and the European context, we are agroecologic. We don't use chemical fertilizers. I think about we need in our context to increase. We have some margin of maneuver to increase our level of chemical using. So we are agroecologic, but we need to go in the intensification of agroecology. My definition is not biology, but use a reasonable of quantity of agroecology. For example, the profitability of agroecology, I think about our key message is we need to develop a local market. The local market make sure to develop employment, to develop inclusive of women activity, to develop to reduce the footprint of carbon for the alimentation, and to boost the local production. I think about that is the key the way our country must be work for agroecology, the local food systems. Thank you.
Sound. A very short one, because we are really running out of time. Yes. Short question, short answer.
Thank you for the presentation, where I'm curious to know if you checked on the local sourcing also of the food, apart from the local foods which are implemented in the school meals.
Can you repeat the question?
I don't hear you. I can't hear you.
I'm asking, did you look at the local sourcing of the food in the school meal programs, apart from the local food which are implemented there? And if there is also another sustainability aspect which you checked in the school meal program? Can you hear me?
Could you get the question?
Sorry, if you can repeat, please.
Okay, maybe I move a little bit. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I was asking, did you look at the local sourcing of these meals in the school meal programs?
Yes.
And maybe if you can give me a little bit of information on that. And another question, did you check another sustainability aspect on also the school meals apart from the economic aspect?
Okay. Thank you for the question. For the food school menus, we have a big challenge, because the level of poverty are very low, 30%, and the government ambition to go over 60%. For that is just ambition. That is currently have not many action to go to attain this objective. And the civil society need to do some pressure, some advocacy to push the government to realize this objective. But the civil society haven't evidence for the impact, possible impact around the development of local production, employment, circular economic. They haven't more impact. They have just the impact of the education for the rate of development, education development, but not for the value chain local. They haven't the impact around this. They need more evidence to do them advocacy. The government, but also need evidence to be exiting to realize this them objective. And the research sector work together around all this problematic to work with all the actors to build the evidence. We build this evidence around the food money school. So we have all the evidence in all this sector.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I need to interrupt here from the timekeeping.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sorry.
Maybe we can continue if there is time afterwards, but I think we should really move forward to the next presenter. And if we have time in the end, we can address more questions.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you
very much for
opportunity.
presenting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you unshare your screen so that also the second presenter is online? The topic is on ensuring food and nutrition security in Africa through the diversification of the food system. Welcome, Emmanuel Doncourt. Can you hear us? Maybe also a quick sound check.
All right. Hello?
Yes, perfect. You can hear you. You can hear us?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
The floor is yours. I mention again,
right.
Ideally 10 minutes and 5 minutes discussion.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to present on this platform. My name is Emmanuel Doncourt, and I'm going to present on a topic ensuring food and nutrition security in Africa through the diversification of food system. Actually, this is an ongoing project which is funded by EU. So I'm going to present an overview of the project and then some of our activities that we've undertaken so far. I'm affiliated to Justus Liebig University. I'm the project manager for Healthy Diet for Africa. Just as a background, as we are all aware, Africa continues to face persistent malnutrition in the form of undernutrition, microdeficiency, and growing rates of overweight and diet-related diseases. So at the moment, about 20% of African population is considered to be malnourished. 30% of children are stunted due to malnutrition, and also about 1 billion cannot afford healthy diet. So these nutritional problems does not only overburden our healthcare system, but also undermine economic growth and development in Africa. Furthermore, global nutrition is mainly dominated by about 15 highly developed crop species, which provides about 70% of human calories. However, evidence suggests that about 50,000 plant species are considered edible. Meanwhile, crop diversity is declining at a genotype and species level. So this one-sided production system is considered to be vulnerable to biotic stress, such as pests and diseases, as well as abiotic stress like climate change and variability. So on this background, the Healthy Diet for Africa project, which is a 6-year project funded by EU with a budget of approximately 11 million, aims to harness the potential of food system diversification to address malnutrition and improve food and nutrition security in Africa. So overall objective is to establish diversified food systems in 8 African countries, namely Liberia, Ghana, Nigeria, Benin, Ivory Coast, Cameroon, Kenya, and Uganda. So the central hypothesis of this project is that diversifying different elements of food chain will improve food nutrition health outcomes while ensuring social, economic, and ecological benefits in Africa. have four main specific objectives, which are as follows. One, to establish dietary diversity monitoring framework for food systems in 8 African countries using newly established metrics. Second, to develop technologies for sustainable diversification of food production, including a new variety of major crops, innovative production systems for underutilized crops, and diversification of existing crops. Thirdly, to enhance consumer acceptance and adoption of diversified, sustainable food products that support human health. And then lastly, to promote wide acceptance and adoption of diversified food system in 8 African countries. So basically, the project is organized, the objectives of the 4 objectives are further reorganized into work packages and clusters. Due to time, I'm not going to go through all these, but basically, we have 4 clusters. The first cluster is actually looking at monitoring and evaluating dietary patterns in the selected African countries. And then we also have food production cluster, which also focuses on measuring diversity of food production, storage, and processing that specifically address dietary requirements in the food system. And then we also have cluster focusing on food consumption, which look at enhancing consumer acceptance of novel food items, also ensuring food safety, and looking at evaluating impact of health-related information on regarding indigenous and novel foods. And then the last cluster consider the impact of innovation and technologies that have been developed or identified in the project. So what kind of approach did we take? Basically, we adopt the food system diversification approach. So diversification of food system can occur at different, across different levels in the chain, from production, supply chain, markets, trade, as well as consumers or consumption at different level of organization. So at continental level, we primarily focus on policies and dissemination. At regional level, we look at scaling up of innovation. At household level, we look at improving dietary diversity, while at farm level, we look at diversified crop and cropping system. So at the production level, we explore field of farm diversification, which leads to landscape diversification, as well as ecosystem diversification. In this together will lead to environmental sustainability and resilient agro ecosystem. So once we diversify at the farm level, it is expected that this will lead to diversified business model as well as food environments, which will stimulate income and economic growth. And once we diversified a business model and food environment, this will also lead to diversified diets, which will lead to balanced diets and nutritional health. Furthermore, looking at the complexity of the issue that we are addressing using the food system diversification approach to address malnutrition, it's a complex approach. So one, we cannot solve this problem relying on only one discipline. So we apply the multidisciplinary and then translational research approach. So with a multidisciplinary, we involve expertise from different fields ranging from social science, health science, nutrition, and food, environmental, plant, agronomy, biotechnology, as well as information technology and science. And also, we also adopted the translational research approach, which is basically translating basic scientific discoveries to solve real-life problems. Here, we apply the concept of living labs, which is basically engaging different stakeholders and actors to co-create, identify, and pre-test innovation or ideas in real-life context. In this project, we have 21 partners, comprising of 18 partners from Africa and 8 partners from Europe, 9 partners from Europe. So in Nigeria, we have 2 partners. Ivory Coast, we have 4, 3 from Kenya, 2 from Cameroon, 1 from Mauritius, and then Europe, we have 3 from Germany, 2 from Belgium, Denmark, Spain, Bulgaria, and the UK. With this organization, about 15 15 of them are from either from university or research institution. We have 5 from development organization or non-governmental organization. And then we have 1 as a policy and advocacy institution. The project size, as I mentioned, the project is based on in 8 African countries, that is East, West, and then Central Africa. That is in West Africa, we have Liberia, Ivory Coast, Ghana, we have Benin, Nigeria, and then in Central, we have Cameroon. And then in East Africa, we have Uganda and Kenya. So these sites were selected to capture high prevalence of malnutrition, socioeconomic gradients, diverse impact of climate change, as well as influence of conflict and human mobility. So I'm going to share some key activities or results that we've generated so far. So in terms of identification and development of technology for sustainable diversification of food production, so far we have created a nutrition composition database comprising of 153 commonly consumed foods and underutilized crop species based on existing database and literature. We've also selected 24 underutilized plant species with limited information, where after analysis, we will incorporate this in our database. We are also targeting about 50 nutritional crop species, ranging from vegetables, cereals, and grains, root tubers, legumes, and non-forest timber products. And then in terms of development of crop varieties, currently we are working on developing biofortified rice, which is rich in vitamins, iron, and zinc, as well as ultra-low glycemic rice, biofortified pepper and tomatoes, as well as fortified maize. We have also identified and developed a number of production systems, which I'm going to show you in the next slide. So with the new varieties, we have tomatoes, different varieties of tomatoes. Actually, this variety of tomatoes were developed in Bulgaria by one of our partners, and this will be introduced in Africa. So they're going to do some experiments in Africa to check acceptability from farmers and also from consumers. And this tomato is rich in minerals and vitamins. So we have pepper as well.
Sorry to interrupt, but we are running out of time. Can you come to the end?
All right. Okay, so let me just share the last part. In terms of promoting sustainable technologies, so we have established 8 living labs. We have community virtual hub training where we will be training youth and farmers. We also have multi-stakeholders innovation platforms. So far, we have recruited 41 students comprising of 20 PhD and then 21 MSc training in different fields. We have also trained 157 youth comprising of 72 women, 85 men, and then so far 43 of them have established their own enterprise. So what are the outlooks? So far, the food system diversification approach has been embraced by stakeholders, and youth and stakeholders have also expressed high interest in diversified, innovative production system. We are going to continue our training and promotion of innovation using the Living Lab concept. And then different studies are also ongoing in terms of analyzing dietary diversity and monitoring and food environments, consumer acceptability of innovative food products, toxicant exposure assessment in the food chain, as well as adoption and upscaling of production system. All right, so this is the end of my presentation. Thank you, and pardon me for running through this due to time. So I'm open for questions.
The floor is open for questions. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, thanks a lot for the presentation. You mentioned a number of neglected crops that you integrate, but then you spend more time on explaining the biofortified rice varieties. I would be really curious, what are these neglected crops, and would it be not more important to highlight them more in order to make them less neglected instead of focusing again on rice? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. The reason why I decided to silence it a little bit, we have a number of them a number of them that we are focusing, so I wouldn't be able to show all of them, but let me focus on few of them here. For example, we have developed instant rice porridge, and with this instant rice porridge, we have fortified them with underutilized or neglected food, crop species. For example, tiger nuts, ginger, we have hibiscus, we have tamarind, we have baobab, we have moringa, and then we have also developed crackers, rice crackers, also using these underutilized crops. And then for about 24 underutilized crop species that we have identified, basically most of them they don't have a common name, usually the scientific name. So unless I refer to the document, I wouldn't be able to mention all those scientific names. So pardon me for that. Maybe in a next presentation, I will show that. But if you are interested, if the chairperson will permit, I can also quickly show that to the audience. Thank you.
One last question.
Yeah, if you could just tell us when you expect to know more about the health outcomes.
Sorry?
When do you think you will know more about the intended health outcomes?
All right. This is planned for the end of the project because we are talking about impact. So the project just started last year as a 6-year project. Now they are planning, they started with the baseline surveys. So probably towards the end of the project, that is where we may be able to actually tell the outcome, the health outcome of the project.
Thank you, Emmanuel. We're looking forward to more results of this study.
Maybe for facilitation, I'm also a work package leader on that project. So Emmanuel is in that. So in case after the break, you can also ask some more detailed questions and we can talk about it.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Good, we will take this opportunity. Then I thank you. Maybe you can also unshare the screen, and we hope that you will stay with us online. And we will move on to our third presentation on exploring the maternal factors affecting children's nutritional status in urban areas of Bangladesh. While we are arranging the presentations here, there are 2 more seats, or I can also actually 3 more seats if you want to have a seat and or more space for summer standing. This is an offer that you can also come in the first row.
Thank you very much for coming here. I'm very happy to see the audience is full. This is the first offline presentation, but I have a lot of text. I'm sorry. I have the next version of the presentation, but I sent it before. Dear audience, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to speak about exploring the maternal factors affecting children's nutritional status in urban areas of Bangladesh. The research was funded by European Union, USAID, Food and Agriculture Organization, as well as government of Bangladesh was helping in this. I'm not going to explain the background of this research, but only the objectives and some result part. So the objectives were to identify the maternal factors which affect children's nutritional status in urban areas of Bangladesh, to study the extent to which women's autonomy and degree of empowerment translates into better nutrition and diets for children, and the pathways through which this mechanism operates, and to explain the ways of women's involvement in reproductive and productive work that affect maternal and child nutrition. So it was our conceptual framework, like maternal factors, which are mainly socio-demographic and socio-economic factors, and women's status, affect some intermediate variables like antenatal care, caregivers status, mother's nutrition knowledge, dietary diversity, water sanitation and hygiene status. Those cumulative effect child nutritional status. And this was our sampling frame. And in total, we have surveyed nearly 2,000 households. From the households, like one mother and one younger child of that house who is under 5 years of old. And at the same time, we have conducted 30 FGDs, which includes 184 mothers and 22 adolescent girls who are also in charge as caregivers. And to explain the women empowerment, we have used the 5 dimensions like self-esteem, access to and control over resources, decision-making ability, freedom of movement, and attitude, behavior, and support from family members towards the mother. And now I'm going to, what about child nutrition? Like child nutrition in our case was stunting, wasting, underweight, then dietary diversity. And at the same time, we also calculated women's BMI and women dietary diversity, as those affects also child nutrition. It was found in our descriptive results, like 20% of the respondents achieved empowerment using LKR method. About 55% of the mothers got married when they did not reach even 18 years, and 44% of their first baby born when they were below 19, and only 59% mothers received antenatal care how World Health Organization suggested, and the left didn't. And more than 80% mothers we found had poor level of nutrition knowledge. 34% of the respondents have inadequate sanitation, and our result tells that 36% of the children are stunted, 16% are underweight, 10% are wasted, and 23% are overweight. And if we see the dietary diversity, almost half of the children, more than half or 3/4 of the children had low to moderate level of dietary diversity. And among the nearly 2,000 mothers, no one had high dietary diversity in our case, though there are also highly educated mothers. And this figure shows like 16% of the mothers pass their more than 2 hours of their quality time with their children, and others do not. And I'm not going to show those econometric results, but I would like to mention those in sentences. Sorry for these long sentences. So according to objective 1, our result tells that mothers' socioeconomic status were the important factors that affect child nutrition. We found that antenatal care visits is the significant protective factor against malnutrition in children, because we found that 40% of the mothers had faced post-pregnancy complications also, though the mothers receive iron and some kind of folic acid, but many of them did not take properly, and they were more likely to have low birth weight children. Working mothers provided less breastfeeding and faced problems with complementary feeding, as they had to join at work when they have 6 months of maternity leave, and they feel complicated as they just started complementary feeding to the child. Mostly they depend on the female relatives while going back to the work, to attend their children or gave them responsibility to unprofessional domestic workers. It could be mentioned here that in our country, there is no organized daycare centers. So childcare support was found to be a crucial factor in improving child nutritional status. In case of exploring women empowerment, it was found that highly educated mothers or who had first marriage at the delayed age, working status, and better socioeconomic status were more likely to be empowered. And also there is another hidden story, workplace environment. Though some of the mothers, they are maybe empowered at their household level, but at the workplace, they are disempowered. Mothers having greater control over expenditures were less likely to have malnourished children. Economic freedom may enable mothers to come out of the family from food monotony, decide about buying diverse foods, and seek health services, and purchase appropriate food and access to healthcare facilities to meet the special needs of their young children. And we also found that existing preventive strategies like breastfeeding, early feeding, those can be improved by improving mothers' nutrition knowledge and physical and mental health. If there is lack of harmony in the family, then a distressed mother cannot properly respond to a child's need for care. And children having better diets in households where there is a greater equality between women and men, that leads to long-term nutritional status. And mothers suffer from a lot of mental turmoil throughout their maternity journey. As a result, the child's physical and mental development is hindered. The high prevalence of maternal depressive symptoms would have a national effect of the nutritional status of the children. In most cases, our family members think they need to care only the child, but in reality, mother's physical as well as mental health is very important to keep the children healthy, which is almost neglected in our culture. And some other cultural aspects also need to be addressed. And according to objective 3, through how child nutrition translates into from the maternal factors, like we found that homemaker mothers dedicate their time and effort on household activities such as caring for other family members and cooking meals and many other tasks. Also, in case of working mothers, they buy more food with higher income may not indicate that children are taking diverse foods. Rather, they are mostly taking junk food or carbohydrate dependent food to fill the stomach. Busyness and stress of the family members, easy accessibility, advertisement, convenience, taste, etc. are the main influencing factors for choosing those kind of processed food. And in case of also mother's freedom of movement, we may need to explain this empowerment variable with cautious. Sometimes we found that mothers who have convenient access to marketplaces, they may bring unhealthy food at home if they do not have proper nutrition knowledge. Mothers usually go to the hospital not for their child or for themselves, but they, according to culture, they are going to the hospital to visit their elderly family members because it is a cultural issue. And participation in community events, so sometimes mothers do not actually receive child health related guidance, and also they discuss about the other social issues. So we may conclude that access to resources, work-life balance, health and nutrition knowledge, and support from family and workplace needs to be considered. So I'm not.
Maybe a final sentence.
Final sentences.
Yes.
Okay, like recommendation. So with this research, we would like to recommend about quality public child daycare centers, improved antenatal care services, mechanism of improving women and child dietary diversity, gender sensitive workplace environment, and ensuring access to resources for mothers with low income, low socioeconomic status, improving sanitation practices, and also we need to care for the adolescent girls who are the future mothers. So with these sentences, I would like to thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this interesting and very important presentation and topic. Any questions?
I think I actually have one. Did you talk to the local policymakers to put this infrastructure into place?
Yes.
What helped the outcome?
Yes, because Ministry of Health and Ministry of Food was also involved in this research. So we have a lot of discussion to introduce child daycare center and other nutrition sensitive and nutrition specific interventions. And after our research, they have also included in the National Action Plan. But when it will be going to be implemented, that is a matter of question. I hope we can achieve it, because this research was also, they were involved in it. I was leading, but many of the stakeholders were involved. 7 ministries were involved here. 17 relevant ministries were involved here. And we could bring them, all of them, in one discussion point. So I hope in near future we can do with some changes.
Any further questions? If not, maybe there is also some time afterwards to exchange. I have some, but maybe in the interest of time, I would say we can move to the fourth presentation. And it's on improving children's nutrition, evidence-based policy recommendations for school meal programs in urban Vietnam.
Hello everyone, and my name is Kim Anh and I'm from Hanoi University of Public Health in Vietnam. And this is Mrs. Yang from University of Bonn. And it is a great honor for us to be here today to have a short presentation about our study. And on behalf of our NIFAM team, we would like to introduce to you our study, Improving Nutrition, Children's Nutrition, Evidence-Based Policy Recommendations for School Meal Programs in Urban Vietnam. Okay. No. Yeah. Okay. And as we know, school meal is an essential part for children's health and nutrition. And in most schools in Vietnam, the lunch accounts for 30 to 35%, and the afternoon snack accounts for 5 to 10% of the total daily intake of children. So therefore, school meal play an important part in nutrition of the children. And in Vietnam, the government has focusing on improving the nutrition status of the children through several efforts. And the government, they issue some legal resolution projects, national strategy, guidelines, and documents to improving their nutritional status. However, there are challenges when implementing this document, and they need to be addressed to ensure the nutrition and food safety of the school meal of the children. And our research questions is, what is the current status of implementation of school meal policies in Vietnam? And what factors are hindering the implementation of these policies? And so we conduct the study to evaluate the current policy effectiveness and identify potential implementation risks, including external risks, and forecast the impact of intervention decision.
And in order to fulfill our project, we apply the decision analysis approach, which is approach really focusing on the decision, analyze the decision, and understand the impact of the decision. And in this case, we look at the government's policy decisions. And we started with developing a qualitative model of the policy impact pathway. As she mentioned, that there are different policies, and then we would model what kind of impact pathway with the policies. And we incorporate all important aspects from all sources of information without concerning about the data limitation. And in the second step, we transfer the conceptual model of the impact pathway into the mathematical model. And we work with the stakeholders to provide input data. However, stakeholders are subject to biases. And so we conduct a calibration training to help the expert realize their biases in providing data input and how to mitigate the biases. And in the next step, we would run the mathematical model to focus the model outcomes and also to identify what are the important variables that affect the model outcome.
So here is some relevant policies that we identified, and we used this policy to make our policy impact pathway. And we consider following key factors. It is the policy intervention, as you can say, for example, change school meal menu to meet RDA, which means is a recommendation dietary allowance, or limiting sugar, salt-rich food in school meal. And next is the cost for to implement and monitoring this policy intervention. And here is the list of benefits when we implementation when we take the policy intervention, such as staff at school, they can have the knowledge, right knowledge about food safety or the nutrition, or the children, they can access and consume healthy food. There is some internal risks that, for example, the existing staff belief and norm. And we also find some external risks like unhealthy school grade foods. For example, they are still have healthy food in the canteen. However, there are still some unhealthy food that be sold out of the canteen and out of the school grade food. And other external risks that we identify, for example, for the peer influence or the advertisements.
Yeah, so our initial results show that actually there is a lack of data to support decision making on complex system. In this case, it's really about the food environment in the school, and it is having the internal and external risk, as she mentioned about the internal risk like the teacher's perception belief, but also external risk, which is school grade, case issue, and it is actually very challenging for the traditional empirical research to research on all those aspects to support the decision making. And in the meantime, policy makers still need to support in developing and assessing interventions for child health outcomes. And to address the issues in this case, we apply the decision analysis approach. And we can really see that for now we have the conceptual model, and it's really incorporating all aspects, which normally in the typical traditional empirical research we may not be able to include those factors.
Next we will consult experts to finalize our theoretical model, and we will have calibration training and workshops with stakeholders in order to provide data for the input table. And after that, we will run the mathematical model and generate model outcomes and identify important variables. And after that, we will design and predict the impact of interventions. And thank you all for listening.
That's open for questions. Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm just curious to know the policies which you pulled out from which, the range.
The policy range, you mean at which level, right?
No, like when were they released the policy for this school which you
When were they? Sorry.
Released.
Release. Okay. Yeah. Cái chính sách này đã được công bố khi nào?
These relevant policies was released in different years.
Can you maybe predict and tell the year in which they were?
For example, the decision is the approving nutritional strategy for Vietnamese people for the period time of 2021 to 2030 and the vision to 2045. And the next decision is the approving the school health program for the period of 2021 to 2025, for example. So, yeah.
Yeah, my question is about the data. You said that there is data constraints that was difficult for you to study on. So it's a program or project, a school meal project by the government, and they are involving different stakeholders to implement this project. So they themselves also have this kind of data. So why data constraint you facing?
It's very interesting question. Maybe I should show conceptual model here. So it's very interesting question. It's true that the government are also having the different department, and then they would have also some data. But the data that can really fit in here, for example, like they in the policy is not having the canteen, the food aspect, like being sold at the school gate, for example. And that was not included in the policy. It was external risk. So how could we have the data for that if it's not really being monitored in the government policy? So there are data, and also actually like even with the data that they are collected, some actually could be used from the model, but a lot of cases, a lot of data was collected, but actually when you really want to analyze the decision, it's not possible to use. It's also the case.
Another question.
Thank you for the presentation. I was just thinking about the policy. For such kind of modeling, you develop different scenarios. But based on that, you consider general equilibrium or partial equilibrium modeling. So, does this policy still as a first scenario, or do you develop other scenario? And also the framework of analysis. The general equilibrium with partial.
Yeah, thank you very much. So yes, that's true for the modeling. Normally we forecast the scenarios of the policy, but in this case, the policy have already been implemented. So we are kind of somehow in the midway. So in this case, we can already evaluate the impact of the existing policy. And then from there, we would identify which are the factors actually influencing the outcome of the policy. And from there, we can identify where it's possible to intervene in the system. For example, we talk about the school gate food, for example, and there would be a factor that, okay, that could be one. Let's assume if it could be one factor affecting, then there should be an intervention to intervene in the policy. In that case, we would forecast the model, having the future scenario of what can be the impact of the intervention. But at the moment, we monitor what have already been there so far. As he said that like the policy has been released already, like it's for 2021 until 2030, for example. So we could already evaluate the implementation from the release of the policy up to this point.
Can take maybe one very short last question.
Yes, no, thank you very much. I was wondering that we do a study on adolescents and perceived school food environment. About the role of adolescents and school students in your study. Because at the moment I see it rather as an adult policymaker-driven analysis. But do you or will you include also the perception and attitudes of the students themselves in accepting the policies being put in place?
Okay, so okay, so it's very interesting question actually, because it's not really just depending on the policy. I don't care about it maybe, but actually we have one variable here. You can see resistance, existing child preferences, practice, attitude. And also you could also see here the peer influence. We didn't have enough time, but actually peer influence was not included in the policy, but it was identified as one factor can affect the quality of the outcome of the policy implementation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Investigation on home garden site, diversity and household urban income.
Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Consolata Musita from the Alliance of Biodiversity International and CIAT. I'm presenting on home gardens, data diversity, and household food security in urban informal settlements in Kisumu, Kenya. This work builds on baseline data that was part of a bigger project called Healthy Food Africa project that is being implemented in 6 African countries, 10 African cities, different food system contexts. And the objective of this project is actually to focusing on enhancing the resilience of food systems in different contexts by connecting food production and food consumption in efficient ways. So this is just one of the case studies of the bigger project. And I'm presenting this part of our team, as you can see from the different names there, from the Alliance of Biodiversity and the University of Nairobi, Kenya. So quickly on to the introduction. As we all know, malnutrition is a health crisis right now, or a global health concern. And particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, we find that malnutrition is being experienced, the triple burden of malnutrition is increasing. And non-communicable diseases are also on the rise. It's an emerging health threat, according to the WHO reports. And when you come back to down to the level of Kenya, the statistics are also the same. If you look at the Kenya Demographic and Health Survey report of 2023, we can see that the statistics mirror what is at the global and the regional level. Dietary intake is actually, poor dietary intake is a contributor of poor nutrition and health outcomes. This we all know because we are in this room. And minimum dietary diversity is a proxy indicator for nutrient adequacy. However, this remains a challenge. Achieving this minimum dietary diversity, which is an indicator of nutrient adequacy, remains a challenge in many low middle income countries, according to the Global Nutrition Report. In terms of urban informal settlements, they present unique challenges in their own because of the context in which they are. High population is one of the challenges, poverty, food insecurity, etc. And also in these urban informal settlements, we find that it's often characterized by unhealthy food environments. What do we mean by unhealthy food environment? For example, you find a lot of energy dense but nutrient poor foods, which are very easily available to the population compared to foods that are nutrient dense, for example, fruits and vegetables. It is easy to find such foods that are less nutrient dense compared to nutrient dense foods. And all this, if you compile all this together, they actually contribute to exacerbate the issue of malnutrition and poor dietary intake in these informal settlements. These are just pictures that show the context of the informal settlement. For example, in Kisumu, where we are working, those are some of the street foods that we'll easily find in the informal settlements. Home gardens are small-scale land use system and are typically located within or near a homestead. And mostly people would grow fruits, vegetables, and herbs, and mostly for home consumption. And studies have shown that home gardens actually offer great potential to improving food security and diets, especially in rural areas. However, in informal settlements, we find that there is actually information gap or inadequate literature in terms of the potential of home gardens or urban gardens. As I will just be exchanging home gardens. If I say home gardens, urban gardens, kitchen gardens, I mean the same thing. So we want to actually see what's the potential of these urban gardens in informal settlements context. And therefore, the objective of this study was to analyze the correlations between home gardens, household food security, and data diversity in urban informal settlements. How do they contribute towards dietary intake in urban informal settlements? We conducted this study in Kisumu City, which is actually in the western part of Kenya. And this city, it has been reported by studies that 60% of the city dwellers in Kisumu live in informal settlements. And food insecurity and malnutrition and problems and challenges to do with data diversity and that intake are actually high in these informal settlements because of the challenges that I alluded to before. Therefore, we selected 4 informal settlements out of the 8. As you can see from the figure, we have 8 informal settlements. But for this study, we selected 4 informal settlements: Manyata A, I hope this is working. Manyata A, Manyata B, Obunga, and Bandani to conduct this study. This study was conducted in the month of March and April in 2022, and it was a cross-sectional study design. We selected 510 households with mother and child pairs, and it was random selection. And we targeted women of reproductive age and their children 6 to 23 months for this particular kind of study. This is just part of the work that we were doing in terms of collecting data on data diversity and data intake in households with mothers and children of that age category. We used a semi-structured questionnaire to capture details on presence or absence of kitchen gardens or urban gardens and other social demographic characteristics of the household. And to assess household food security, we used the Household Food Insecurity Access Scale, which is a standard set of questions that is used to assess the household food security status. In terms of dietary intake and data diversity, we use the 24-hour recall tool to assess women and children dietary intake on 2 non-consecutive days. We did the 2 non-consecutive days because we wanted to capture usual intake of the mother and the child. And therefore, using the data intake data, we generated data diversity scores as recommended by Food FAO for the women using the 10 food groups and the children using the WHO recommendation of the 7 food groups. And in terms of analysis, we did the Poisson regression while controlling for different confounders. Some of the results that came out of this study in terms of percentage of respondents who say they have a home garden, we can see that actually it's a very small number of only 5% that reported to be having a home garden in that context. And when we looked across the different 4 informal settlements, we could see that significant differences were observed within the informal settlements. But on an overall scale, the ownership of home gardens is very low in the informal settlements. We went further ahead to analyze the relations or the correlation between home garden ownership and data diversity. If you look on my right, that would be on your left. In terms of women data diversity scores, basing on the 10 food groups as recommended by the Food and Agricultural Organization, we see that households with women, households that reported to be having a home garden or owning a home garden actually had higher dietary diversity score at 4.6 food groups compared to households without a home garden, which reported at 4.3 food groups. And when we come to children on the right, the same scenario actually showed that households with a home garden, the children reported to be having a higher dietary diversity score at 4 compared to households without a home garden, which reported at 3.5 food groups. Therefore, we are saying that home gardens actually show a pattern whereby a household with a home garden showed a higher dietary diversity score compared to a household without a home garden. In terms of consumption of provitamin A, rich fruits and vegetables, comparing it to home garden ownership, the same scenario again unfolds. If you look at households with home gardens, in terms of women, that's a cohort, 86% consumed provitamin A rich fruits and vegetables for households that reported to have a home garden, compared to households that reported not to have a home garden. The same for children, households with a home garden, children consumed more provitamin A rich fruits and vegetables compared to households without a home garden. And if you went further and analyzed in terms of significance, you'll find that for women, actually, there was significant difference between households with a home garden and those without, in terms of consumption of provitamin A rich fruits and vegetables. In terms of household food security status across the four informal settlements, if you look further, sorry, this thing is not working. If you look further, the graph that is further on the right, that shows the overall food security status in the four informal settlements on an overall scale. Most of them actually reported to be mildly food insecure, but we have some households that reported to be moderately food insecure, and maybe a few just severely food insecure. The same mirrors in all the informal settlements, and there was no significant difference. We went ahead and did some regression analysis using the different variables to just relate to the household food insecurity outcome. Some of the variables that we analyzed were the presence or absence of a home garden, the informal settlement, school or education of the mother, marital status, age of the woman in years, household size in terms of number, occupation of the mother. So when you look at all this, there was actually no significant differences in terms of these variables when you correlate it to household food insecurity outcome. So in conclusion, looking at what I have presented, we are saying that home gardens may enhance dietary diversity, and actually they increase consumption of provitamin A rich fruits and vegetables. And it is an important pathway that can be used to improve food and dietary security, especially in informal settlements, looking at all the challenges that informal settlements face, space being one of the biggest challenges in informal settlements that does not allow good farming practices. So we can use this as a pathway by promoting urban home gardens in the informal settlements. And having said that, as I mentioned in the bigger project, this is what we are already doing in Kisumu. We are promoting home gardens in these informal settlements. And in addition to that, we are also doing nutrition education to just integrate some of these aspects to try and improve the dietary intake in this context. In terms of next steps, we just completed a baseline survey in the same, an inline survey, sorry, in the same setting. So we'll be able to analyze and see what is the potential impact of the home gardens that we've been implementing in these settings in terms of dietary diversity and dietary intake of woman and child in these households. Those are some of the references. We can look at it. So this project has been funded by the European Union, and it consists of 17 partners across the different countries in Africa and some in Europe. And if you want to learn more about the project and maybe more results and any other results that we intend from the end line, please consult me using that email. And I'm here still, you can also reach out to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the presentation. So final round of discussion and question.
Yes. In your results, you showed that there was like a 5% of home gardens you found. There was an area where there were none home gardens, and then there was a area where there was like a lot of them. Did you find out why this area had like a lot of home gardens and the others didn't?
Yeah, for example, Bunga didn't have home gardens. Okay, one of the things that came out strongly in Obunga was the issue of landlords. Their tenants, So they will say landlords do not accept us to put up a kitchen garden. And hence the reason why during the implementation, we had community dialogues. We had now to bring on board the different stakeholders. Some of them even were the landlords, bring about the understanding of the importance of this thing. So one of the biggest issue was the landlords, but space is there compared to other informal settlements like Nairobi. Yeah, so that's just one of the reasons.
Thank you for your presentation. I wanted to find out on the data diversity. First of all, I want to know whether the home gardens, the vegetables that are planted or the foods that are planted there are not accessible in the market. Then what are the foods that are being grown at the home level?
So most of the crops being grown in these home gardens are what we call indigenous leafy vegetables, the African leafy vegetables. Yes, they're accessible at the market, but sometimes because of seasonality issues, you'll find that prices will go high compared to other vegetables. So they may not be easily accessible to most households. And looking at the informal settlement setup, income levels are not, they're a bit low for most people. So some of those vegetables are the ones that are consumed because they're grown at the home level.
Sorry, just a follow-up question. I want to know the type of vegetables that are grown in those areas. And then also, have you tried to profile those vegetables when they're off season? Since you're talking about them not being available sometimes when they are really out of season, or when the price goes up. So what happens if I was to preserve those foods? How is it profiling of those?
Okay, some of the vegetables that are grown have local names, so you may not, but we have vegetables like the black nightshade, the African nightshade. We have vegetables like the jute mallow. We have vegetables like the amaranthus species, yeah, and etc. So many of them have different variety of vegetables. So to your second part, I didn't get very well. Second part of the question.
Because if we talk about vitamin A,
yeah,
assumption is that we could have already done the analysis on seeing whether the vitamin A is really present, it being present and being available. So have you done that?
No, it was not part of the objectives of the project to do nutrient profiling, but maybe it is something we can look at because these are recommendations. Recommendations generate new projects, and maybe from there we can actually do a nutrient profile of the vegetables. Welcome. Yeah. You can come and we can collaborate. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys. My friend, I'm doing what is asking in our project. About to based in Tanzania and in Germany, 5 institutions. So we are using a flat garden and pocket garden. And then we grow these vegetables, and then after growing and promoting, our project is aiming at promoting production and consumption of this. I'm excited to share.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So we are promoting and this to the households, both the urban and the rural sites, to ensure that they can produce this and consume and even sell. So, but in the end, I don't end there. I come and check the nutrient content. So we did this the first round last year, and the last 3 months, just 1 week before we came here, I'm from the second and final round of this intervention in the field. And now with the samples again to check the second round, and then we can have results for you guys to see. And we went further on to this time around to do solar drying. So to check the issue of preservation. So in off season, so that they can have access to this even when it's off season. And I did not have a question, but I was thinking, do you have this portion presented already in paper form or?
It's an upcoming publication, must say. Yeah.
Maybe we can take one last question. Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. I wanted to know how growing vegetables encourages diversity, because it's just vegetables. I want to know how it encourages diversity.
So vegetables are, so I mentioned that data diversity scores are generated from the, for example, for the woman, it's generated from the 10 food groups, and for the child, right now it's 8 food groups, but we use the 7 food groups. Anyway, so vegetables, for example, the dark green leafy vegetables are actually a very prominent group on its own that actually contributes to dietary diversity. Same to vitamin A rich fruits and vegetables. So they are actually of importance in terms of contributing to dietary diversity. That is why our focus is also on vegetables. Yeah.
Yes, you have mentioned the groups of vegetables that they are growing in the farm. I mean, in the whole garden. Is it? Did you check that? Is this vegetable is not available in the nearest market? Therefore, they are.
Yes. So before we did the household, we had what we had done a food environment mapping in the markets where these households are located. We have that report, it's just that we didn't present it here, but you will find that most of these vegetables come from a different county, you know, different counties, and then they're brought to Kisumu. So sometimes whenever they're out of season there, definitely Kisumu is affected. That is why we are promoting these vegetables to actually also just change the food environment of the Kisumu informal settlements area. Yeah.
So I think with this we can close the session. Thank you very much for the presentations and the